Grand Rising, Grand Rising. I hope everybody's doing good this morning. Sorry that I never made it back the other day to finish the video, but life happens, right? That being said, I'm just going to try to pick up where I left off. I'm going to finish with this, and then I'm going to go ahead and upload this video, and then I'm going to try to record like one of my regular videos, and then I'll post it. Just because whether other people are thinking it or not, I'm thinking it, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it so I can get it out of the way. If you're wondering what happened to my tooth, yes, it looks awful. I hate it, but there's nothing I can do about it right now. The tooth had a cavity in it, and it was already kind of going bad. And I ate a Starburst, like, blow pop thing, and it took it out. It just took it out. So, yes, it sucks, but, you know, I'm trying not to focus on it too much. It was 1:11 when I looked at the clock. Okay, anyways, now that that's out of the way, yes, it bothers me. Yes, it looks bad. I realize that, but, you know, dental care is expensive, and right now, it's not on my priority list just because it's so expensive. Okay, so when I did the video the other day, I left off on, you know, the struggles in life teach us how to be humble and teaches us the value in the little things. I'm just going to read what I wrote, and we'll just go from there. So many times in life we get hurt or let down because us, individuals or as a society, make the mistake in thinking that others think and move like us versus they think we think like them, and we think that they think like us. So because of that, especially people that are good, you know, trustworthy, kind-hearted people, when we're dealing with people that aren't like that, it can make things difficult. Sorry, I'm still kind of adjusting. I'm using a new camera. I'm in the truck, and anyways, so excuse me if I move around a lot, because I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay, and then when I was writing that message, it was Tuesday, June 11th, when I wrote 2:55 on the clock, when I wrote that message. And as I was writing it, I wrote down the time, 8:58 a.m. I saw a blue jay. It came and landed by my truck. It was getting dog food out of the dog bowl, but it was still there. So, bluebirds, blue jays. You could look up the spiritual meaning of any animal online. Google is a wonderful thing. Even though the internet in general can be used for just as many bad things as it can good, I'm thankful for it. Okay, moving on. Once you've walked through the fire, you are no longer afraid of the smoke. The scars will heal. If you're good with metaphors and stuff, you probably get what that means, but I kind of touched on it already a little bit in the other video. You know, the things that we go through, especially when we're going through them, we get so consumed by the emotions and, you know, the physical occurrences of what's going on in the world around us that, and especially the emotions, it really blocks us from being able to see either why things are happening or how that event is going to benefit us later on in the future. And of course, me specifically, it's narcissism. That seems to be my lesson to learn. And I've said it many times before, we all have certain narcissistic traits in us. It's part of our ego. It's part of the way our body protects itself. But, you know, some people have more than others. And, I mean, a lot of us get them because we grow up with narcissistic parents. And And a lot of those, a lot of those traits are coping skills, defense mechanisms, ways that we deal with confrontation. Something that I've always done in, arguments, whether it's with a spouse or somebody else, I just shut down. If I'm dealing with somebody that, especially narcissists, and you're having an argument, you're never going to win. If you tell the truth, they're going to say you're lying. If you lie, they're going to say you're lying. You could have 100 different versions of documented proof to prove whatever you're trying to say, and they still won't believe you. And they'll find a way to flip the script and put it on you. And so what's the point, right? There's no point in arguing because you're not going to get anywhere and you're still going to be the bad guy. So I would just shut down. But, in reality, that's not, as an adult, that's not the mature thing to do. As a child, that's very much what I did. And even in my early adult years, that's what I did. But, now, I just don't even put myself in that situation. But at the same time, sometimes you just can't avoid them. And when you're in those kind of situations, it's very important to remember that they don't think like you and you don't think like them. And it's not going to make sense. You're never going to understand it. It's going to seem crazy and just off the rocker. Because, in reality, most of them are. Just saying. Okay. So, going through all those things teaches us, right? It teaches us the red flags, the warning signs, and hopefully, better ways of dealing with situations like that. Pause. Okay. And this I have heard so many times throughout my healing process, my growing process. And I'll admit, in the beginning, it kind of triggered me some when I would hear it. Let me turn this fan up. Okay. Attachment is the root of suffering. And back in the day when I used to hear that, to a point, it would trigger me. Like, it would piss me off. Like, how can you say that it's, we're not supposed to get attached to stuff? It's only natural. I brought it up in the video the other day. When you're used to having something all the time, every day, and then all of a sudden, just one day that's gone, you're going to miss it, right? And depending on what that was and the impact that had on your life and, just the role that whatever that is played in your life, it could have a very huge impact on your life. Such as addicts using substances to cope with trauma that they've experienced in their lives. When they do finally decide to get sober, not only are they having to detach from something that they're attached to, which is the substance, then they're having to deal with all those emotions and all that trauma and psyche stuff that they were trying to bury and drown under the substances. But even though it used to trigger me so much, it doesn't anymore, because I've realized that it's true. Whether the thing that you are attached to is a negative or a positive, no matter what it is, if you have an attachment to it, when it's gone, you're going to miss it. Whether it's a job, a family member, where you live, you miss it. Even if you know that it's for the better, that it's not there anymore, right? Okay. Then love, faith, hope, and kindness. I must have been watching I was probably watching a video that made, the love, faith, hope, and kindness. Love is the strongest energy that we can put out. Being kind. I don't remember what I was talking about the other day where I brought it up about, I think it was about being attached to stuff, that if we appreciate it while it's there, when it's gone, we can at least say, well, we made the most of it, right? Same thing with being kind. Same thing with being loving, and having faith and having hope. If it doesn't work out, whatever it is, at least we can say that we did our best. We stayed positive. We were good-hearted. We put what we could into it. And when you do that, when you really want something and you put your all into it and you don't get it, yes, it hurts. But it builds character. It builds strength. If you don't get it, it makes you want to work even harder to get it. 11:11 on the clock. Vice versa. When you have to work hard to get something, no matter what it is, you're going to appreciate it more when you finally get it. Whether it's a relationship, a car, a job, a home, whatever it is. And then you have that internal pride. Even if it doesn't acknowledge to you from the outside world, inside of you that you worked really, really hard to get whatever that was and you deserve it, right? Say, vice versa. You had something, you appreciated it, you valued it, but now it's gone. Yeah, it sucks it's gone, but, I'm glad that I had it at all. Okay, eye of the needle broke camel's back. Everybody has their limit. We all have bad days. We all have triggers. And a lot of people don't even realize they have the triggers. I know I didn't until I started all this. 12:12 on the clock. I did not realize how easily I was triggered. Because back then, I didn't see anything wrong with it. 12:21 when I looked at the clock. It's just who I was. And yes, those things are true, but, we can be better. I used to get so mad at people when they'd tell me that. It's like, but it's just who I am. 1, 2, 3, 4 when I looked at the clock. It's just who I am. Well, yes, it is just who you are. But, if we're honest with ourselves, there's always room for improvement. Always. Okay. It's never easy to hear, admit, or accept that it wasn't love. Be honest with self. Loving yourself means restricting others' access to you. If they don't love self, they can't love you. And it's true. Self-love. Rock, SA-ROC. She's awesome. If you haven't heard of her, check her out. I was listening to her before I came on. That's right. They call it self-love. Or no, she says, that's right. We'll call it self-love. If you don't love yourself, not only are you not loving yourself, but there's no way that you can love somebody else the way they deserve to and need to be loved. You can't even love yourself. How are you going to love somebody else? Just like if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of somebody else? I interacted with a guy a couple weeks ago, and I experience this scenario very often. And thankfully, because I've made it so far in my journey, I know exactly what it is, which, this is something that I learned pretty early on. It's the deeper deception that gets me. It's the people that are so good at lying that it takes you a while being around them to realize that they're lying. But nonetheless, I've gotten better about it. And so he comes up, he's tired. He's just gone through a breakup, and you know how most people are. When they go through a breakup, they want to go right into another relationship. And thankfully, I've never intentionally been that kind of person, although it has happened in my life. But that's the wrong way to go. And I told him that in our conversation. But he says, I'm a good companion. I take care of my women. Da, 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 da. And I looked at him and I said, how can you even say that? First of all, he had just gotten out of jail. He has no place to live. He's couch hopping. He has no car. He rides a four-wheeler that breaks down half the time. He has no job, no driver's license. He's a drug addict. I mean, I looked at him, I said, dude, come on, really? I said, you can't even take care of yourself. I said, let's just stop and be honest about the situation. And I pointed all those things out to him, which, of course, he didn't need pointed out. He knows. But I said, stop and think about it. What woman is going to sign up for that except the type of women that you've always been with that leaves you where you're at right now? What woman would sign up for that? I mean, unless there was a bond or something already there, which in my last relationship, that's exactly what happened. He was living with his parents. He had no job, no driver's license, no car, a drug addict. But we had been friends since elementary school, and when it all started, we were not a couple. He came to me and said that he wanted to get sober, that he wanted to live a better life. And I mean, I'm not going to deny somebody that. If there's a role that I can play or something, I got to readjust. My butt's going numb. If there's something that I can do, to assist in that process, I'm definitely going to. Because, thankfully for me, minus a few hiccups in my life, drugs really haven't been something that's really held me back. My codependency was my addiction. People were my addiction. Okay. So that being said, a lot of the things that we go through teach us how to love ourselves, even if it means showing us how we don't want to be loved. If the world shows you, like if you go through a relationship and you're like, okay, I'm not doing that again. You know that, okay, you don't want somebody that's clingy and needy. Because in reality, that's codependency or manipulation, one of the two, or probably both. But the psyche is a deep place. And for my journey, it's been very important to learn about that. Not necessarily, the whole scientific aspect of it, but, why we do the things that we do. And for the most part, majority of it comes from programming, from when we were children, which that's something that came up in a video that I watched yesterday, and I am going to do a video about that, but just not today. But if you've never seen the movie, The Island with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, it touches base on it. So, if programming is something that you're not familiar with, on a wide scale, not just like individually, that could teach you a few things. Okay, moving on. I'm going to try to quit rambling because I got a whole nother page of stuff. And really, these are just like, call them thoughts, call them downloads, call them whatever you want. The inner work is more important than the outer work. We pretty much just talked about that. If you don't know who you are and your vowels, your values and your morals and what you want and what you don't want and what you like and what you don't like and where you're willing to give and where you're not willing to give, if you don't know all those things, if you haven't spent enough time with yourself to where you know that, it's going to be very difficult to have a balanced relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or whatever. Because if you don't know what you want, how are other people supposed to know what you want or don't want? Okay, it's the ones closest to you that will try to hold you back because they can't keep up. Be careful who you eat with, talk with, and sleep with. That came while I was watching like a little motivational video. or I guess it was kind of a warning video, really. The girl, I wish I knew her page, but when I'm scrolling through my YouTube feed, if something pops up from a influencer that I've never watched before, I try to make it a point to watch that video because I feel like there's a message in there for me somewhere. Of course, if you don't regularly watch videos like that, they may not pop up on your feed at all. But she was talking about a book in the Bible. I want to say it was Timothy, but don't quote me on that. But it was, God had told him to go somewhere. And told him, not to see a king. I don't remember which king it was, but he was going to see the king, and God told him, don't stay there. Don't eat with him. Don't drink with him. Go and do what I told you to do, and then come back home. Right? Well, he did that. But on his way home, he was stopped on the road and was deceived by the devil, basically. And ended up going home with somebody that was supposed to be another prophet like him, but he was a false prophet. And he went home with him, and he drank with him, and he ate with him, and I guess he ended up getting eaten by a lion. Okay, so like I said, it's a story in the Bible. I don't remember the names, but nonetheless, originally, he obeyed God. He did the right thing, right? Okay, let's not even make it about the Bible. Let's just because the Bible is all about stories, examples, and metaphors, okay? That's what it is. It's, it's a brain teaser in the form of a life manual. So, in the beginning, he did the right thing. Okay? He was on his way home. He had completed his job. He had successfully accomplished the task and was on his way home. And was stopped by a false prophet. And was deceived and believed that false prophet. And ended up dying. And the point that story makes, and the point that she pushed in the video was, we don't know what's around the next corner. We don't have that movie tape of our lives where we can jump ahead and see what's going to happen. So it's important to listen to that inner voice, to your gut intuition, whatever you want to call it. And when those red flags, what is it that she says? The red flags that you ignore now will come back to bite you later. 23, 24, when I looked at the clock. That's Empress Bella. Okay, so be careful who you spend your time with. They tell us when we're kids, be careful who you hang out with. Birds of a feather flock together. And yes, some of us are sent into groups like that to try to disperse it, right? To try to encourage them to take the right path. But sometimes that's not our job, right? We can share our story, we can share our advice, our wisdom that we've gained, but in the end, we have to continue on our path. We can't, and it's hard, especially when you care about people. Or when people know your truth. They know who you are. They know your triggers. They know how to get that hook in you. So that's a hard part for me. That's where I let my heart get in the way of my discernment. And I stay long. Most of the time I end up staying way longer than I should. You know, you always, like, we'll use a relationship, a romantic relationship, for an example, just because it's an easy example. You know, when that moment comes where in the back of your mind, you know it's over. Something has happened, something's been done, that there's no coming back from it, right? But you stay anyways, either because it's convenient or it's comfortable, or, you know, sometimes there are situations where you just can't leave, like mine right now, you know. And back in the day when those things would happen to me, I would get really upset, and usually I would do whatever it was anyways, even though I knew I shouldn't, and I ended up paying for it later. So I had to kind of accept and learn that, you know, sometimes when we're stopped, and it's for a reason. You know, like that old saying, you know, when don't be mad when you get stuck in traffic, because that might have been you in the wreck up ahead. You know, sometimes those delays are there for a reason. And out of all the things that I've had to learn and adapt to, that's been one of the hardest, because I have a really bad habit of ignoring that, and finding reasons to stay. It was 26:26 when I looked at the clock. So anyways, you know, we all have different issues, but it's up to us to see them and acknowledge them and try to figure out how to fix them. You know, not for the outside world, but for us, to make our lives easier and to help us be happier. Because after all, happiness is a conscious choice, not an automatic response. If you let it, this world can tear your heart apart. So, you know, it's up to us to protect it, and, you know, at the same time be open to receiving. It's complicated. All right. Knowledge is power. Seek the truth for yourself. Don't just believe. You can't count on others to hold you accountable or to motivate you. Follow your heart, but filter it through your head before you act. Boom. That's what I was just talking about. It makes it hard to remain open to receiving love and also giving it. Because if you allow it, this world can make you cold-hearted. It can harden your heart and close it off. And, you know, it's up to us to be able to have the discernment to know when to close it and when to open it. You know? It's like right now, during this time of year when all the bugs are outside. You know, but it feels great. There's a breeze blowing, the sun's shining. You know, you want to have the doors and windows open. Well, so, you know, like if you mow the grass or something, you close the windows and doors because it's going to send all the bugs inside, right? Yeah, it's just about learning how to work with it. What works for you. Don't let others tell you who you are. Learn from, that goes back to kind of the programming. Learn from the mistakes, and they are worth making. I've said that for years. Mistakes are always worth making if you learn from them. But if you keep making the same mistake over and over again, you're obviously missing something. We're all guilty of it. It's just in different areas. You know, like for me, it's with relationships, with people. You know, and unfortunately, that saying, you can't always expect the truth from others, but you should at least be able to get it from yourself. You know, you got to at least be honest with yourself. You know, whether it's accepting that you played a role in what's happening, or, you know, accepting that it's going to be up to you to do something to change it. You cannot share your life and dreams with just everyone. Stay connected and grounded. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but, because a lot of people, like, especially, if you're working on a project or something, you want to be able to share that with the people that you care about. But unfortunately, a lot of times the people that we care about are really just snakes hiding in the grass. Wolves in sheep's clothing. And that doesn't come natural for everyone. Staying connected and staying grounded, getting outside, doing that self-reflection. For most of us, it doesn't come natural because that's not what society teaches us. And in reality, the dark forces that are around us don't want us to do that. They want us to stay so busy and so distracted and so worried and consumed by this material world that we don't even see that, our strength, that it's weakening us. All those things make us weak because we don't take care of ourselves. We don't eat right. We don't sleep right. We don't get enough physical exercise, so our bodies start deteriorating in every way, mentally, physically. The mind is a muscle just like anything, just like the rest of our body. And water. Like, I have to, reinforce it with myself, but I try to encourage others. Water, 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 water. Water is life. In the Bible, Jesus talks about He is the water. And without water, you can't have life. You can't make it. When I talk to people about the off-grid living and stuff like that, and a lot of times people are kind of blown away by all the knowledge that I have about that. But I mean, I lived that life for almost 8 years. So, and especially when you go into something like that with very little knowledge, you have to learn or you're not going to make it. But the key is water. You can make it without power. You can make it without, the modern conveniences or whatever. But if you don't have water, you're done. You're done. You can't make it. You don't have a way to bathe. You don't have a way to cook. You don't have anything to drink. And our bodies are like 70% water. When you're dehydrated, and there's a lot of people, that walk around super duper dehydrated every day, all day, because all they drink is soda and coffee. And I'm not going to sit here and judge. I do that shit too. I have those days where, like,